Hi, I'm RC Jim, and on a wet day like this, well, what better thing to do than to fix up old planes? So let's have an update on our Great Plains Decathlon and show you how it's progressing. Okay, so here we've got our plane, and you can see we've got a lot of the garbage pulled out here on the top. It's good because it's allowed us to be able to see some places where it's coming loose here and there, and so we got a little bit of reinforcing to do. Some of them it's not real obvious until you wiggle it just a certain way, and then you say, ooh, I can see some movement there. Yeah, like right in that one and so forth. So anyway, got some more fixing up to do there. We've made all of our formers and stuff. And with these, I didn't have, well, with these ones here, I didn't have a long enough sheet to cover the whole thing. So I did it in pieces and then put reinforcing bits behind. And where we've got the backup piece that goes on this one, we utilize that as part of the reinforcing there and then added an extra bit. And for the other side, well, the other side is still getting that backup piece attached to it. But this is typically what we did is we put in epoxy, used our baking paper to protect the stuff that's holding it, and then have it clamped with a nice flat board. So this particular one here, we've just put on this backing thing for the wing saddle, and I will sand up this where the epoxy came out and so forth. And this one, I put the joiner back on the other side. So you can see that the joiners are in kind of like two different places. Then we saw to it that these things fit nicely onto the side, which they do. So they fit nicely there, and the other one on the other side. For the piece on the front, for the former on the front, this was only intended to go down about this far. But I wanted some extra support in here. And so if we look at it here, this slides down inside there like that, and it allows us to have that extra support all the way down to that bottom part where it's very strong. Other than that, it's very thin on the sides in there, and I'm just concerned that that's not enough strength. So I've got this going down all of the way, and that of course will have the windscreen on the front of it. On the back of it, we'll have the F2D, which sort of fits in there, have a little packer in between. The holes will go into there. This, of course, fits up to the sides in here like this. So that's all of those things. With the battery tray, you know, I had it placed up here. And that was just because we ended up being in that situation where we were nose heavy. But I've put the engine back, or the motor back, to the position that it calls for in the plan. So I took out the spacers that we had in there to move that back. And I'm hoping that that will allow me to have this battery and a few other things. I've removed some stuff in the back here. But actually, removing the stuff in the back is not helping, but removing stuff in the front, I've done that. So anyway, I'm hoping to have the battery in here someplace and have the front of it down on my original mounting point that I've got there in the bottom. And then I'll make some new supports here in the back to support the back of it. And one of the reasons why I want to, well, I've got two reasons why I want it down there. And it might be as back as far as this, and it could be as forward as it wants to go. But a couple of reasons why I want the battery down there. One, visually it looks a lot better to look in through the windows on the plane and not just see a big hunky battery sitting up there. The other thing is that even with normal landings and stuff, there's a lot of jolts, and that battery is heavy. And I think it needs more, you know, the support's okay, but I think it'd be better to have it anchored down onto this big heavy guy down here. So I'm hoping to be able to do that. Oh, and then the additional reason is that with the battery up here, there's all kinds of stuff up front blocking a radio signal from getting to anything in the back. I did have one antenna up here, but you still got a motor up there and so forth. And so what I'm going to do with this particular installation is I'm going to use a satellite receiver. A variety of people make satellite receivers, but I like Lemon RX, and so I'm going to use their satellite receiver. And I wanted to make sure that it's compatible with the receiver itself. Say satellite receiver, I guess you call it a receiver, but it's basically an extension for the antenna. So what happens is that the normal receiver will get placed up where it goes up here in the middle with everything plugged into it. But then we'll have this cable going to the back, and it'll go from this bottom connector down here in the receiver back to this extension thing, and then I can have the antennas way back here. So I then have a very clear radio signal path to be able to get to the antennas without having to worry about all the great big battery and the motor and ESC and all of this electronic stuff up here that potentially could cause interference. So this guy is going to go as far back as I can get it. We have the two antennas, one will be vertical and one will be horizontal. I'll put the horizontal one on one of these guys and the vertical one on the side of one of those. We'll have the horizontal one to one side, and then the vertical one will be on the other side. And we might even have, like, I was going to say just diversity, you know, the better diversity you have generally the better. But I could have, say, like the horizontal one there and the vertical one here. But the main thing is to have them back in this area back here rather than having it up there. And that doesn't weigh much of anything, so I don't think it's going to affect the weight and balance, but if anything, it'll help having something more back there. Okay, so that's the plan, and we're well underway. Might mention it is a pain making these guys. What I did with them is I traced over the plans, traced out the item of whatever it might be, and then I put this over the plywood, and then I had it taped down, and then I had tape in certain places, like say across here I would have had tape, and I think I had a little piece across there. And for those, they didn't get, when I mark it out by cutting in shallow with a knife, a hobby knife, and getting it marked out. Then where these places were that was holding it together, I didn't cut through that straight away, but I waited until I had everything else marked out. Then I pulled this off, and then I just connected across the straight lines of where it was left out, and then completed the cuts. In here, I did the straight cuts with a blade and a straight edge. But then for the corners out here, what I did is I drilled a hole in next to where I've already got it cut with the straight bits, so there wouldn't be a split going across the line. And then I used the little saw, a little thin hobby knife saw, to cut just across there, but leaving about 3 mil away from where I wanted the radius, mainly because my saw still got rather big blades on it, and it's a rather rough cut. So then after that, then I took a piece of tubing with some sandpaper on it and sanded that down to get the radiuses. So we still have a couple little tiny bits where it's split out there, but basically pretty good. As much as possible, as I was cleaning up the fuselage, I tried to get down into places where there were things that were still sticking out, jagged bits of formers and various things like that, you know, broke off up above and still had the part that was fastened in down there. And I did my best to use a Dremel and file and various things to clean those areas out, to where when they put the new pieces in, they can go right where they're supposed to go, and they can go up against the plywood, and they'll be epoxied in place, and everything will be nice and secure. Okay, here we've got the upper part of the cabin all put together in a trial fit, taken all of these plywood pieces that we've cut out and got them in place. You'll note that there's a bit of a gap on the one side on this upper part of the former compared to the bottom part. I think what's happened is that when this was built by my son way back when, he may have measured back from the firewall to those formers to position them. And that firewall has got an offset to put the engine to the right. And so the formers have gone in crooked in the back. But fortunately, we're able to straighten it out. And so what we've done, we've added some spacers down on the bottom that we're going to glue onto, as well as the side. Of course, with my approach here, I'm doing this different than the plans, the directions, the instructions tell you to do it. With the instructions, it has you building it up piece by piece over the plan, and that's all fine and good, but it doesn't allow you to ensure that all of the pieces are going to go together right. So as much as you can in a situation like this, it's good to do a trial fit to get all of the pieces that are possible together and make sure that everything fits precisely. And that was a real challenge that I had in the first bit, the first part of the construction before the crash. So this will be a lot better. And of course, we're doing it all with brand new plywood. And so we should have actually a better result with a better plane at the end. At least that's the plan anyway. Okay, as you think about getting the wing on there, the wing will be sitting on the saddle, but the support is going to be at the front and at the back. So you got the two pegs that go into the front and the two screws that go into the back, and so those need to be supported. At the back, we've got our former that's a bit heavier than the other bits of plywood, so I made sure that we had that right. And then up at the front, where we've got the two pegs that are going to go into that panel, going down from there, you've essentially got a T-section of plywood going down to the bottom, and that will help support that. And of course, the sides overall will be giving the fore aft and side to side sort of rigidity that's needed to hold it all up there. Now, let's have a look at the engine cowl. I got it smashed up pretty good. And most of these little breaks will be pretty easy to fix, just a bit of glass cloth on the inside. And you know, a little bit of touch up on the outside. And those things should all be fine. And there's a few of those as we go around the cowl. Now when we get down here at the bottom, we've got a major issue. But I found this juice bottle that basically fits it pretty nicely as far as giving us that shape that we need. So I think we can use that to help form the fiberglass around that area. And I think what we'll do is, again, we'll put the fiberglass in the inside to allow us to use some filler and other things on the outside to smooth things out. And also the inside, we don't have to worry about the paint so much as far as getting it to adhere. And we will put the bottle on the inside, put some tape and other things around on the outside, end up removing the bottle, putting the resin and the fiberglass inside there, putting the bottle back in place, taping it all up nicely, and hopefully get a good result. So that's going to be interesting. I've never done it exactly like this before, but hey, sometimes you have to just be a bit creative in what we do, and I think that just might work. Well, this is one of these things that really makes a job like this exciting. I enjoy doing stuff like this. You know, this is, again, one of those things that anybody else would have said, just throw it away and buy a replacement someplace. And actually do have a friend that has offered me to sell me his replacement as he's given up on his Decathlon. But anyway, here's what I've done thus far. I've sanded it on the inside by hand around those areas where I'm going to be putting the fiberglass. me doing the fiberglass on the inside. And I've cut out that piece of the bottle that I've put around there, and I've put some tape around the outside. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to unstick this. Let me just go ahead and try and do that now. Let's see whether this looks like it's going to do the job or not. Okay, we're going to unstick it. I'm going to lay up the fiberglass on that, and then I'm going to put that back in to hold it straight. Okay? We've got this little bit where there's an indentation in here, so I've taken some packing material, and of course I first put the tape across it and as close as I could. I got this packing material taped in there to hold that down someplace close to where it belongs. So there'll be imperfections on the outside, but afterwards we can take some more resin and touch those things up and do a bit of sanding and whatever, and it gets painted anyway. So yeah, so I think that'll at least get us to where we're serviceable and maybe even look nice. So let's see how we go. Well, we have applied the epoxy, got everything put together, lots of clamps, including my string clamp with a rubber band to hold things together. We've got the resin and lightweight, extra thin fiberglass cloth in place. Got the plastic in there, so they got the plastic, and then this stuff is all was applied first off to the inside of that. And I decided just to use masking tape on the plastic, because otherwise the baking paper would get all over the place, and it ends up with some masking tape stuck to it. That's okay. So to put the weights in there to try and make sure and hold that plastic out there against what it is that we're pulling against. And I hope that that works out well. I think it probably will. And here we are. It's all getting together. Got all of that glued up with the epoxy. Everything is in pretty good shape. We still have to get the dashboard and this front bit on there, but that is looking good. Coming over here, we've fabricated some, anyway, we fabricated those. This bit here, we're just sort of going to glue that up and call that good. But anyway, that's that. And then our cowl, engine cowl, that's fiberglassed up nicely. We've had a second bit of fiberglass put on there. So that is basically hard, but I'll wait till tomorrow and trim off that edge. And I've put the plastic on the outside for the second time with the baking paper in there, so that'll come off nicely. And yeah, quite pleased with that. That's going to certainly be serviceable and not terrible looking. Well, thank you for watching this update on our Decathlon repair. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe. That'll allow you to keep in touch and be able to see the progress along the way. And while you're at it, have a look at some of the other stuff that's happened with this Decathlon before this point in time. It's an interesting process, and hey, I enjoy it. So you have a great day and enjoy your flying.